Alien girl gave the human a simple token, only later revealing why her council rose to greet him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The storm pushed against the high steel walkway like a living thing, rattling every loose bolt and sending sparks of static across Ethan Cole's visor. He paused, breath fogging inside the cracked face shield, the taste of ionized air metallic on his tongue. The maintenance tower behind him hummed in low, uneven pulses, an old system begging for kindness in a world that didn't give much. Ethan adjusted the thermal pack slung over his shoulder, his boots scraping against the grated floor as the wind sliced colder than a January night in Montana. Just one more sensor to recalibrate, he told himself. Then warmth. Then maybe dinner. A flicker of movement caught the corner of his eye, soft, silvery light trembling against the storm. He turned. A figure stood at the far end of the walkway, clutching the railing with delicate fingers. Her skin held a muted violet glow, like moonlight mixed with amethyst, and her eyes shimmered silver even through the drifting static haze. She looked small against the angry sky, her cloak snapping around her like fractured wings. Ethan lifted a hand. Hey, are you lost? This platform's not exactly safe right now. The alien girl didn't answer at first. She seemed to study his face, or the human shape of him, with a kind of cautious wonder. When she finally stepped closer, her voice carried gently beneath the wind. You stopped to assist me earlier, when others did not. Ethan blinked. He remembered, a few hours ago, she'd slipped near the base lift when the stabilizer stuttered. He'd caught her arm, steadying her without thinking. Just reflex. Just human decency. Now she reached into the folds of her cloak and drew out a small carved stone, no bigger than a pendant, etched with faint patterns that pulsed in slow violet waves. She placed it in his gloved hand. It felt warm, too warm for the freezing platform. A simple token, she said softly. For your kindness. Ethan rubbed his thumb over the smooth surface. You don't have to give me anything. Really, I just didn't want you getting hurt out here. A quiet smile touched her lips, brief as a breath. Humans say such things easily, she murmured, but they rarely act upon them. Before he could ask what she meant, the storm surged. A warning alarm buzzed from the tower's upper joints, metal struts groaning under shifting pressure. Ethan stepped instinctively in front of her, shielding her from a scattering burst of static sparks. We need to get you inside, he said. This walkway isn't built for long exposure. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the token resting in his palm, its light now answering the rhythm of his heartbeat. For a moment, the storm quieted around them. Just a breath, just long enough for her to add. Keep it close, Ethan Cole. Its meaning will reveal itself soon. Then another gust slammed into the railing, and she steadied herself before following him toward the emergency hatch, her steps light but certain, her gaze lingering on him with something unreadable, as if she already knew what he didn't. That nothing about this meeting, or that token, was simple at all. The emergency hatch sealed behind them with a soft hiss, muting the storm until it became nothing more than a distant vibration running along the metal walls. Ethan lifted his visor, wiping a sheen of cold moisture from his brow. The dim corridor lights flickered in a lazy rhythm, casting long shadows that swayed with every shift of the old structure. Lyra stood a few feet away, her violet skin catching the amber glow. The cloak she wore dripped tiny beads of melted frost onto the grated floor, each drop echoing softly in the narrow hall. For a moment, she simply watched him, as if memorizing the way he steadied himself against the railing. Ethan cleared his throat. You should go down to level 2. The temperature regulators actually work there. She tilted her head, silver eyes reflecting the corridor lights like polished metal. And you will not come with me? I need to finish the calibration outside. The tower is overdue for maintenance. If the readings stay off, the whole grid might overload. Lyra stepped closer, her voice lowering as if afraid the walls might overhear. Your safety is compromised out there. The storm is growing. Yeah, Ethan said with a half shrug. But the tower does not fix itself. Her gaze flicked briefly to the small carved token still hanging from his glove. Its faint violet pulse seemed to answer her breathing, steady and warm. "Keep it on you," she said quietly, "even if you do not understand it yet." Ethan nodded, more out of politeness than belief, and turned toward the staircase leading back to the upper platform. But her voice stopped him mid-step. "Ethan Cole." He looked over his shoulder. Lyra's expression had softened, something uncertain rising in her eyes. "Earlier, when you shielded me from the sparks, you placed yourself in harm's way without hesitation." "It was nothing," he said. "Anyone would have done it." "That is not true on my world," she answered. "On my world, people move away from danger, not toward it." He had no response to that. Instead, he exhaled slowly and pushed upward through the metal stairwell, each step vibrating beneath his boots. Midway up, his handheld scanner chimed. A distorted signal flickered across the tiny screen. "Power instability." Ethan frowned. The readings were shifting faster than expected. The storm was changing the ion field around the tower. When he reached the upper access door, he pressed a hand to the cold metal. The wind roared faintly on the other side, a restless presence waiting to swallow him again. Behind him, he heard soft footsteps. Lyra had followed, her cloak trailing lightly along the grated floor. "I said level 2, he reminded her gently. "It is safer there." "And I said the storm is growing," she replied. "You should not face it alone." Ethan let out a quiet breath, the kind that fogs the air when someone tries not to argue. "I appreciate it," he said, "but I am not risking you out there." She studied him for a long moment, then extended her hand. He hesitated before taking it. Her fingers were warm, far warmer than they should have been in the freezing hall. "The token responds to intention," she said softly. "If it senses you are in danger, it will glow. If it brightens, you must return immediately." Ethan glanced at the small pendant as it rested against his glove. The violet light pulsed once, gentle as a heartbeat. "Does it actually do something?" he asked. "Or is it more of a tradition?" Lyra's expression shifted, something between amusement and something deeper. "It does something," she said, "though you will not understand its purpose until the moment you need it." Another wind gust rattled the hatch. Ethan tightened his grip on the railing. "All right," he said. "I will keep it close." Lyra released his hand but stayed near, her presence steady, grounding. "Return safely, Ethan Cole." He nodded once, drew in a breath, and pushed the hatch open. The storm welcomed him with a sweep of cold air and shimmering static, but now the pendant's warm pulse tapped lightly against his chest, as if reminding him he was no longer stepping into the storm alone. The storm wrapped around Ethan the moment he stepped back onto the upper platform, a cold swirl of static brushing against his suit like drifting needles of light. He braced a hand on the railing and let the tower's faint hum settle into his bones. Behind him, the hatch sealed with a muted click, leaving only the wind and the rhythmic pulse of the small pendant resting against his chest. The token's glow stayed soft, steady, as if watching with him. Ethan moved carefully along the grated walkway. Each step vibrated through the metal and up his legs, reminding him how old this station really was. The sensor stack loomed ahead, its surface rippling faint arcs of blue where the storm rubbed against its energy field. He crouched beside the access panel, fingers stiff from cold as he pried it open. A soft plume of warm air drifted out, carrying the scent of heated circuitry and something faintly sweet, almost like dried cedar. "At least something is working," he muttered. His scanner chimed again, this time calmer, reading partial stabilization. If he could bring this last sensor online, the tower would hold until sunrise. A shimmer of light reflected off the metal next to him. Ethan paused, lifting his head. The storm had moments when the static eased, creating pockets of quiet. In one of those pockets, he caught a glimpse of the lower walkway far below. Lyra stood there, cloaked in violet against the dim glow of the interior lights. She was watching him through the small window panel beside the hatch, hands resting lightly against the glass. The sight tightened something in his chest. She had stayed. She trusted him enough to wait. Ethan gave her a small nod she might not even see, then returned to the panel. He tightened a loose conduit, listening to the soft click as the sensor aligned with the tower's main grid. A faint chime confirmed the connection. The blue arcs around the stack steadied. The storm responded with a low, sweeping moan, like it sensed the tower pushing back. A brief pulse flashed from the pendant. Ethan froze. The glow brightened, then dimmed. He tapped it lightly. Easy. I am fine, he whispered. A stronger gust slammed into the walkway. Ethan gripped the railing until the platform steadied. The pendant warmed against his chest, as if reacting to the tension in the air. He finished the last calibration and packed his tools, scanning the tower one more time. Everything looked stable. The storm, however, felt different. He could not explain it, but the energy in the air had shifted, like the atmosphere was bracing for something unseen. The pendant pulsed again, gentle but insistent. Ethan exhaled slowly. All right. Message noted. He made his way back toward the hatch, steps careful on the trembling metal. When he reached the door, it slid open before he touched the control. Lyra stood inside, her silver eyes wide with something between relief and worry. The token brightened, she said softly. I felt it. Are you unharmed? Ethan stepped in, allowing the warmth of the corridor to swallow the cold from his suit. I am fine. The tower is stable now. She looked at the pendant, then at him, her expression unreadable. It reacted because you drew close to a threshold you could not sense. Ethan raised an eyebrow. A threshold for what? Lyra hesitated, fingers curling around the edge of her cloak. For the moment when your path would have crossed danger stronger than the storm. The token responded correctly. Ethan frowned. So it is more than a charm? She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Much more. And its purpose will soon become impossible to ignore. Her gaze drifted past him toward the storm beyond the glass, as though the winds were carrying a warning only she could hear. The corridor lights dimmed as another tremor rolled through the tower, a soft vibration that moved across the floor like a slow heartbeat. Ethan steadied himself against the wall, feeling the warmth of the pendant beneath his suit pulse in a calm rhythm, almost reassuring. Lyra watched him with quiet focus, her silver eyes reflecting the amber glow overhead. The air between them held a delicate stillness, broken only by the faint hum of the stabilizers deep within the structure. Ethan took a breath and motioned toward the lift that led to the mid-levels. We should get you to the safe sector. The storm will settle once the grid equalizes. Lyra did not move. Instead, she stepped closer, her voice low and steady. Your actions outside were not required by your station. Yet you continued to protect me. Ethan shrugged gently. I was doing my job, and you were out in a bad storm. That is not the reason, she said. I have observed humans. Most would have chosen the warmer corridor and left the sensors for someone else. You did not. Ethan looked away, rubbing a bit of dried static residue from the edge of his glove. It just felt right. Someone had to do it. A soft shimmer reflected off the pendant again. Lyra's gaze followed the glow. The token answers who you are, not what you claim to be. Her tone held neither praise nor judgment. Only certainty. They started down the corridor, walking side by side, their footsteps echoing lightly. Pipes overhead rattled gently with the shift in pressure. Ethan could hear the faint hum of the storm outside, distant now, like wind brushing across a long plain. As they reached the junction leading to the inner walkways, Lyra paused. A soft panel of glass offered a view of the platform far above. She lifted her hand toward it, palm hovering just above the surface. You acted without knowing anything about me, she said. Without knowing if my people would approve or reject your help. Ethan leaned against the railing and gave a small smile. I did not need to know. You looked like you needed a hand. That was enough. Lyra turned to him slowly, her expression shifting. Something gentle, something unsure. On my world, such choices are not common. Assistance is often calculated, measured, weighed against what one might receive in return. That sounds exhausting, Ethan said. A soft breath escaped her, almost like a quiet laugh. It is. They continued through the junction, entering a maintenance room filled with old consoles and coils of fiber lines. The temperature stabilizers hum quietly here, spreading warmth through the metal floor. Ethan stretched his fingers near one of the vents, feeling the circulation settle the lingering cold in his joints. Lyra stepped closer to one of the consoles, her fingers brushing the smooth surface. You risk much for someone you barely know, she said. And yet you expect nothing. Ethan considered the thought. I guess I did not think about it that way. You were alone out there in the storm. I could not ignore that. Lyra turned to him fully now, her violet skin catching the soft glow of the console lights. On my world, the act of assisting someone without expectation is considered rare. It is viewed as an anomaly, something extraordinary. Ethan chuckled softly and shook his head. I am not extraordinary. I am just a maintenance worker doing what seems right. Lyra studied him for a long moment, her gaze thoughtful. Extraordinary is often disguised as ordinary, she said, until the moment others can no longer ignore it. The pendant glowed once more, brighter now, reflecting softly in her silver eyes as the storm outside shifted toward a quieter rhythm. Warm air drifted through the maintenance room as the storm outside softened into a distant murmur, like wind brushing over a calm lake. Ethan adjusted a loose connector on one of the consoles, watching the indicator lights shift from amber to green in a slow, steady rhythm. The pendant under his suit gave a faint pulse, warm against his chest, matching the gentle thrum of the station around them. Lyra stood nearby, tracing her fingers along a panel that displayed the tower's energy flow. The soft violet reflection of her skin against the screen created a quiet glow in the dim space. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt unforced, almost comfortable. Ethan wiped his hands on a cloth he kept tucked into his belt. Systems are stabilizing. We should be in the clear soon. Lyra nodded, her silver eyes following the rise and fall of the energy lines. You restore balance even when chaos presses against you. Ethan laughed gently. I restore circuits, not balance. The storm will calm on its own once the grid settles. You speak modestly, she said, stepping closer. But your presence shifted more than the storm's path. He paused, unsure how to respond to that. The pendant pulsed once, a soft violet glow reflecting faintly on her face. Lyra watched the light with a thoughtful expression. May I ask you something, Ethan Cole? Of course. When you offered me warmth on the walkway, why did you do it without hesitation? Humans often speak of kindness, but action from strangers is rare. Ethan leaned against the console, folding his arms loosely. You looked cold. You looked lost. I guess I just reacted. Without calculation? Without calculation. Lyra breathed in slowly, as if absorbing the idea. On my world, every gesture carries weight. Every act is judged by its intent. A choice made without gain is almost unheard of. That sounds like a lot of pressure, Ethan said. It is, she replied quietly. Which is why your action felt unfamiliar. Ethan lifted the pendant slightly, letting its glow spill across his glove. Does this have something to do with your customs? You mentioned it responds to intention. Lyra stepped closer until the light touched her skin, turning the violet surface into soft metallic hues. The token recognizes sincerity. It reads what one carries in the quiet parts of their spirit. And it reacted to me? It did, she said softly. Strongly. The pendant warmed again, as if affirming her words. Ethan felt the heat spread through the fabric of his suit, subtle and steady. Lyra's gaze softened even more. There is another reason I remain near you, she admitted. Not because of obligation. Not because of protocol. Ethan met her eyes, silver and reflective like still water. Then why? She hesitated, searching for the right words. Because when you speak, your tone holds no fear of who I am. You see me as someone standing beside you, not someone standing above or apart. Ethan shrugged lightly. Is that unusual for your people? Yes, she said. Very. A gentle vibration rolled through the floor as the tower's grid finished stabilizing. The storm's low hum faded into a calm whisper. The lights steadied overhead, casting clear, warm illumination across the room. The world outside was finally quiet. Lyra looked at Ethan, her expression open, sincere. This silence feels different than before, she said. Ethan adjusted the pendant, letting it settle against his chest. Storm is gone. Maybe that is why. Lyra shook her head softly. No, it is because you are here. The pendant glowed once more, brighter than ever, as if it agreed. The tower settled into a gentle hum as the last traces of the storm faded into the distance, leaving the station wrapped in a calm that felt almost unreal. Ethan checked the stabilizer readouts one more time, watching the green indicators hold steady across the panel. The pendant beneath his suit warmed against his chest, its pulse softer now, matching the steady rhythm of the machinery around them. Lyra stood near the wide observation panel, her silhouette outlined by the faint glow of the energy grid outside. Violet light brushed her skin like a soft reflection from a distant moon. She seemed deep in thought, studying the patterns of light drifting along the tower's outer frame. Ethan approached slowly. "Everything is stable," he said. "We should be good for the rest of the night." Lyra turned her head slightly, her expression quiet but focused. "There is a question I have held since the walkway," she said. "A question I do not know how to form without offending you." Ethan leaned against the railing near her, giving her space. "Ask it anyway." She hesitated, then faced him fully. "Why do you not ask who I am?" Ethan blinked at the simplicity of the question. I figured you would tell me when you felt like it." Her silver eyes widened a little, not in fear but in a subtle disbelief. "You are not curious?" "Not even slightly." He shrugged gently. "Curious, sure. But it is not my right to demand your story. Everyone deserves their own pace." Lyra looked at him as though she were seeing something rare and fragile. "On my world, identity determines worth. Name determines fate. Title determines how others must speak to you." Ethan gave a small smile. "Sounds like a lot of walls to live behind." "It is," she whispered. "And you did not build one between us." A moment passed where neither spoke. Only the faint hum of the energy lines filled the room. Lyra's gaze drifted toward the pendant resting beneath his suit. "The token brightens when your intentions are without self-interest," she said. "When your actions come from a place of sincerity rather than expectation." Ethan rubbed the small outline of the pendant through the fabric, feeling its warmth. "I do not do anything special. I just try to do the right thing." Lyra stepped closer, her voice soft. "On my world, when someone claims to do the right thing, it is almost always to gain something. Influence, approval, power. I do not want any of that," Ethan said. "I just want people to be okay." She studied him quietly, as if measuring the weight of his words. "Then allow me to ask a second question," she said. "If you learned that helping me might bring unexpected consequences that could shift how others view you, would you still have helped?" Ethan thought about that for a short moment, then nodded. "Yes, because you needed help." Something softened in her expression at that answer. She stepped a little closer, her presence warm, gentle. "You speak without hesitation. That is not common for humans I have met." "Maybe you have met the wrong ones," Ethan said with a quiet laugh. She considered that thoughtfully. "Perhaps." Another soft vibration rolled through the floor, the tower adjusting to its restored equilibrium. The lights dimmed for a moment, then brightened. Lyra looked toward the far end of the corridor. "There is a chamber below," she said. "A place where I must go before dawn." I had intended to make the journey alone. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Do you want company?" She hesitated, then nodded once. "Yes, I believe your presence may be important." The pendant pulsed in agreement, warm and steady, as though it understood her meaning even before Ethan did. The lower levels of the tower carried a different kind of silence, a heavier one, the kind that settled into the air like cool mist at dawn. Ethan followed Lyra down the narrow metal staircase, each step humming beneath their weight as the structure adjusted to the calm after the storm. The pendant against his chest warmed steadily, guiding him with a slow rhythm, almost like a heartbeat not entirely his own. The lights grew softer the farther they descended. Amber turned to pale blue, then to a muted silver glow that seemed to respond to Lyra's presence. Ethan noticed it, but did not comment. Some things did not need words to be understood. At the base of the stairs, a wide circular door waited, etched with swirling patterns similar to the ones carved into the pendant. Ethan brushed a hand across the design, feeling a faint vibration beneath his glove. "This does not look like standard infrastructure," he said softly. Lyra stepped beside him, her expression shifting into something more solemn. "It is not part of the station. It was built by my people long before this tower was constructed." Ethan turned toward her. "So this is what you came here for?" She nodded. "There is a chamber within, a place of resonance. I must attend it before dawn." Ethan frowned gently. "If you need time alone, I can wait out here." Lyra shook her head. "No, you must come with me." The pendant pulsed in agreement, a soft warm glow against his chest. Ethan hesitated, not out of fear, but out of a growing awareness that whatever lay ahead was not meant for ordinary visitors. Still, he followed her. Lyra placed her palm against the center of the door. Soft light rippled outward, and the circular frame opened with a quiet sigh, revealing a chamber that glowed with pale violet energy. The room was large and round, built of smooth stone that shimmered with shifting patterns. The air smelled faintly of cool minerals and something floral, subtle, and clean. Energy lines flowed through the walls like distant streams. At the center, a low platform rose from the floor, surrounded by gentle arcs of light. Lyra stepped onto it, her movements fluid, almost ceremonial. Ethan stayed a few steps back, watching her with quiet respect. She touched a panel of light hovering above the platform. It brightened, casting a soft halo around her. "This place recognizes truth," she said. "It resonates with what is carried inside the heart." Ethan swallowed lightly. "And you brought me here because—" Lyra lifted her gaze to him, her eyes reflecting the chamber's glow. "Because the token chose you," she said. "And I need to understand why." Ethan felt the warmth of the pendant pulse harder, almost like it was answering her. Lyra gestured for him to step forward. He approached the platform slowly, boots clicking softly against the smooth floor. As he stepped into the ring of light, the entire chamber shifted. The patterns on the walls brightened, swirling faster. The air grew warmer, almost embracing. Lyra drew in a quiet breath. "It reacts to you more strongly than I expected." Ethan gave a nervous half-smile. "Is that good or bad?" "That depends," she whispered, "on what it reveals." The light surrounding them pulsed again, brighter, and Ethan felt a gentle wave of warmth move through him, not painful, not frightening, simply present. Lyra stepped closer, her voice steady. "Do not resist it. The chamber will read intention, not thoughts." Ethan nodded, holding still as the glow deepened around him. The pendant against his chest brightened to match, its warmth spreading outward. Lyra watched him with a mix of awe and something more fragile. "This chamber recognizes sincerity," she said softly. "And Ethan Cole, it sees you." The glow intensified, wrapping them both in a quiet, shimmering light as the air grew thick with unspoken meaning. The chamber's glow wrapped around Ethan and Lyra like a slow-moving tide, pulsing with a warmth that felt both ancient and alive. Ethan stood still, letting the energy pass over him in soft waves. Each pulse seemed to read something deep within him, something quiet he rarely acknowledged. The pendant against his chest brightened in perfect rhythm with the chamber's light, its warmth spreading through his suit and settling behind his ribs. Lyra watched him from only a few steps away, her silver eyes reflecting the shifting patterns along the walls. The light played across her skin in soft violet tones, turning her expression into something calm, something reverent. "The chamber sees intention," she said quietly. "Not lineage, not status, only truth." Ethan nodded, though he still did not fully understand what the chamber wanted from him. "What does it see in you?" he asked. Lyra hesitated, her gaze lowering for a moment. "It sees who I am meant to become, and who I am afraid to be." Before Ethan could respond, the platform beneath them shifted, rising slightly, as if acknowledging their presence. The lines along the walls brightened. Light spiraled upward in gentle arcs, gathering into a faint halo above them. Lyra stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "There is something you must know, something my people have not revealed to yours." Ethan kept his focus on her, grounding himself in the steadiness of her tone. "You can tell me." She drew in a slow breath. "My people do not give the resonance token lightly. It is not a gift. It is a mark." Ethan's heartbeat picked up. "A mark for what?" "Recognition," she said softly. "The token responds to those who carry sincerity without expectation. My people call them bearers. They are rare among our own kind, even rarer among others." Ethan frowned gently. "But I did not do anything special." Lyra stepped closer until the glow touched both of them evenly. "You acted without seeking reward, without weighing who I might be, without fearing what it might mean." She looked at the pendant as it brightened again, almost in response to her words. "The chamber is reacting because you aligned with the token. It sees you as worthy." Ethan exhaled slowly, unsure what to do with that information. "So what happens now?" Lyra moved to the center of the platform, lifting her hand. The chamber's light followed the motion, spiraling upward in quiet recognition. "Now," she said, "it reveals truth." The glow intensified, filling the chamber with silver and violet waves that shimmered like distant stars. Lyra's silhouette appeared sharper in the radiance, her presence shifting with the rising energy. Her voice softened into something both sincere and vulnerable. "Ethan Cole, you have been helping someone whose name carries immense weight. I did not hide it out of pride. I hid it out of fear that it would change how you looked at me. Ethan stepped closer, the light outlining both of them in a gentle halo. Tell me, he said. Who are you? Lyra lifted her gaze, and in the full pulse of the chamber's glow, the truth settled around her. I am Lyra Valen, she said, heir to the High Council of my world. And the token you carry is the mark given only to those the council would rise to greet. The chamber quieted, holding the moment in soft, shimmering silence as Ethan absorbed the weight of her words. The chamber held its silence as if it understood the weight of Lyra's words. Ethan stood very still, letting the truth settle over him like a soft layer of dust catching the glow of distant stars. Lyra Valen, heir to the High Council. Someone who carried the future of her people in the quiet strength of her voice. He looked at her, not with awe or distance, but with the same steady calm he had shown since the walkway. The pendant warmed against his chest, pulsing in a slow, reassuring rhythm. Lyra's expression softened when she saw he did not step back. You do not seem surprised, she said gently. Ethan took a slow breath. I am surprised, he admitted, but it does not change what I saw out there in the storm. And what did you see? He held her gaze. Someone who was cold. Someone who needed help. Someone who looked at me like I was just another person, not a title. That is what matters to me. A quiet breath escaped her, almost a tremor, as if she had been holding still for too long. The chamber's light pulsed softly in response, like it approved of the answer. Lyra stepped closer, the glow outlining the delicate edges of her features. My people believe sincerity is rarer than strength, she said. The resonance token identifies those who carry such sincerity. Those who could stand before the High Council without lowering their gaze. Ethan shook his head lightly. I do not think I am the kind of person who stands before councils. Yet you are, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You have been since the moment the token chose you. The platform beneath them lowered slightly, as if completing a cycle. The light dimmed to a gentle shimmer. Lyra moved to stand beside him, the distance between them almost non-existent. There is a custom among my people, she said. When someone becomes a bearer, the council rises as a sign of recognition, a sign of respect. Ethan rubbed the pendant reflexively, feeling its warmth seep through his glove. Respect for what? Lyra's voice softened. For choosing compassion when there is nothing to gain. For offering warmth on a cold walkway. For stepping into a storm for someone you barely knew. She paused, her eyes reflecting the fading glow around them. For seeing the person and not the title. Ethan looked at her with the same steady calm he always carried. I would do it again, he said simply. The chamber's energy shifted once more, a soft ripple moving across the walls like a breath of wind through tall grass. Lyra lowered her head slightly, an expression of humility rare for someone of high stature. When we return to my world, she said, my council will greet you. They will rise when you enter. Ethan chuckled gently, more out of disbelief than humor. Me? A maintenance worker? Not to them, she replied. And not to me. The quiet that followed was warm, not heavy, filled with something unspoken but understood. The chamber's glow gradually softened, fading into gentle silver patterns along the stone. Ethan and Lyra stood together in the center, the pendant's final pulse reflecting in her silver eyes. In that silence, she looked at him as if seeing a truth she had known all along. And for the first time, Ethan felt the weight of what the token had seen in him long before he ever understood its purpose.